Hello everybody, this is Brandon Despia here, and for today's video, we're going to be talking about siding for the DracoTail matchup. The reason why I made this video is because I was doing some practice hands earlier today and thinking about some of the decks I was playing against at my locals, and there was an abnormal amount of DracoTail decks being played. A lot of Yummy, a lot of Canine, but I honestly felt like DracoTail was one of the slept-on decks. It looks like, at least in my neighborhood, people are waking up to it, so there's more DracoTail variants floating around. There's DracoTail Canine, there's the pure DracoTail variant, and of course I'm going there with branded DracoTail. So now I have to restructure certain aspects of my sideboard in order to better equip myself for that matchup, because that's going to be a likely thing I'm going to face at my next locals. So the question is, how do you properly do that in a way which handles them as a especially as a DracoTail player, but also, you know, allows you to play, you know, doesn't interfere as much with your strategy. So I have in front of me several cards that people have been thinking about using in their sideboards this format, and we're going to go over them in terms of how to handle the DracoTail matchup. Like, comment, subscribe if you think this video helped you at all, and hit the bell for notifications, because we will be doing a lot of branded DracoTail conversations, and we will be having some Master Duel content very, very soon. Now, without further ado, let's begin. So, let's start with the first card, Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike is a very potent power counter trap that people have been using along with Solemn Judgment. So we'll talk about both of those. When a monster would be special summoned or an effect would be activated, you can pay 1,500 life points to gate the activation and destroy it. It's a very strong card. Very, very strong card, and I can see why people are running it. As a DracoTail player, one of the main things you have to look for when you're building your sideboard is your monster count. You don't want to take out monsters. You don't want to take out monsters for non-monsters, because what that inevitably does, even if the cards are really good, it makes it more likely that you're going to have not enough monsters in your hand for fusion summoning later on, and that can end up being a break. Solemn Strike is still very good though. So this is where the deck building comes in for you. Also, a lot of the DracoTail variants are running Dragoon. So paying 1,500 life points to negate something only for them to Dragoon you later and then possibly burn you if they run the Dark Magician, is a little bit risky, I think. But I think the main issue for me is that it's a trap and not a monster. So we're going to leave this on the side for now. I think if you're a non-DracoTail deck, this is definitely something worth playing. Especially if you're Yummy, I think. Because your deck needs more non-engine to be able to, you know, handle certain matchups in the second and third games. Next card is Dino Wrestler Pankratops. I wish I had a better rarity for it, but Pankratops is actually a very strong card, I think, a very solid card in this format, especially if you are a monster-heavy deck. Being able to special summon itself and create an immediate board presence at 2,600 that can beat over most of the monsters, many of the monsters, and then pop itself to destroy something, that's actually pretty strong. And the fact that it's a monster doesn't take away your normal summon to do this as well. And if necessary, you can use it as fusion material with my DracoTail cards. That fits. It does exactly what I want to do. This is better for more of the pure builds of DracoTail, however. As a branded DracoTail player, I'm looking for more specific types along with using the DracoTail monsters, and I'm already kind of mixing it up a little bit because I'm introducing DracoTail, but generally speaking, you want dragons and you want spellcasters. And you want some darks. You want as many darks as possible. So Dino Wrestler Pankratops, I think, is a solid pick for any DracoTail build. It's a little bit iffier for the branded variants because of its type and attribute, but I'd still would consider it. The next card is the Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet is a very potent card. We know this is a very strong option in many sideboards. Many side decks are running it. Being able to negate in response your opponent's attack and lower, your opponent's effects and lower their attack is very strong. The one main issue you're going to have a problem with is against the Yummy matchup. If they get Herald of the Arclight on the board first, then, especially if you're a DracoTail player, just know that your monsters are not going to be able to be used with the Forbidden Droplet because it requires the monsters as cost to go to the graveyard. This makes it a little bit iffy than more iffy than people realize in playing Forbidden Droplet right now, because I expect a lot more people to be playing Yummy. Yummy is very strong. Another issue with Forbidden Droplet is that in the DracoTail matchup, they have access to DracoTail Flame, which, if they get this on the field before you get able to activate Droplet, especially if they're going first, then Droplet is very iffy as well. You'll have to send a trap for the cost, and to be honest with you guys, not a lot of people are running traps right now. DracoTail doesn't run a lot of traps. To me, it puts a lot of problems for you. Because of that, I think Droplet, while still a very strong card, because Yummy is so prevalent, and because DracoTail has access to DracoTail Flame, you may be putting yourself in a little bit of a situation by running this card. The next card is Super Polymerization. Discarding a card to fusion summon and they can't respond to it is very, very good. I think it very much depends on what your extra deck looks like. If you play Super Poly, you have to obviously construct your extra deck with that in mind. And depending on your variant of DracoTail or other decks, you may be able to get away with this. So you have to consider, are you able to run Garura? Are you able to run Muddragon of the Swamp? Can you? If you can't, that's also something to think about against the DracoTail matchup. Speaking of which, and I'll bring this up, Super Polying into Secretarion Dragon. In my testing and in my experience watching it played against me and playing it myself, I think Secretarion Dragon, while decent as a normal extender in the more pure variants of DracoTail, the less pure the deck becomes, the less necessary, and I think it's kind of, in branded DracoTail, this is a little bit cope. A little bit. Why is that? Right now, you're only really using Secretarion Dragon because you're trying to, you feel like you have a floodgate option against, that deck, against DracoTail. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because of simple fact that DracoTail monsters, they send materials to the graveyard as fusion materials, and while you may be able to stop the activation of effects like an Artholion, you're not stopping the Malulu from negating your Secretarion Dragon, and you're not stopping your Pan from popping the Secretarion Dragon while it's on the field. Especially if you're running the more pure builds, and they can do both of these at once, and put you in a really bad position. These are also non-targeting effects, so it makes it really tough on you to keep this on the board long enough to really do anything going second. You're using this going first. It's way better going first than second. If you're trying to use this again, going second to kind of negate some monster effect, negate some like Floodgate DracoTail or even Branded, you're wasting your time. I'm just straight up honest with you, wasting your time. But it's still worth a slot if you're running pure DracoTail. If you're running variants where you're kind of running other things like Branded DracoTail, they can run this, but some builds don't, and in favor of other cards like Dragoon or Philia Regis. For those builds, don't run this. The next one is Evenly Matched. This is probably one of the better cards to run in this format. Why is that? Well, first of all, it's similar to, you're not going to be able to do damage to your opponent because you can't attack this turn. Through battle, if you use Evenly Matched, right? You're basically giving up your battle phase, which is kind of annoying, and it may have been important before in the past. But people are running Dark Ruler no more, even though they're not going to be able to deal damage to your opponent anyway. So that means this isn't nearly as bad. Another thing about this card is that it banishes face down, which is really good, not just against the Justice Hunters decks, but also against Malice, which is still seeing play. And you're not limited to only using one copy of this per turn. So if you happen to get multiple copies in your opening hand going second, that's still fine. Whereas if you get two copies of Forbidden Droplet, kind of screwed, because you only really use the one, and if they find a way to stop it or interrupt it, then okay, great. Super Poly, multiple Super Polys, they require a card to discard for it, so that's kind of what makes it a little bit annoying. You really only want to see one of these. Another thing about Evenly Matched is that it's a trap card, which DracoTail does not have the ability to negate in Engine. We can stop spells like Dark Ruler No More or Forbidden Droplet or Book of Eclipse, but we can't stop traps with this card. We don't have any way of doing that in Engine. So, if you are going to be running spells and traps to deal with the DracoTail matchup, yes, consider running cards like Droplet or Dark Ruler if you really want to. But I would strongly consider cards like Evenly Matched or even the Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike. Just keep in mind, like I said, with the Solemn cards, if your opponent's running Dragoon with a Dark Magician, that might be an issue, although they typically don't. They use the King of the Swamp to fuse into that. But overall, this is the Solemns and the Evenly Matched. I think they're good picks over Droplet and Dark Ruler No More for that reason. Shaddoll Fusion. So Shaddoll Fusion is actually a very potent power spell, and this is mostly for the DracoTail players. Being able to fuse into Winda or even to App Cologne is probably something you should be considering in your sideboard. The reason being, especially if you are a DracoTail player or a branded player, you're going to want monsters, a lot of monsters anyway, as fuel for your DracoTail and your branded fusions. So being able to use these monsters, for example, like the Dragon, like the Beast, or even El Shaddoll Ariel, to fuse into other monsters outside of Shaddoll Fusion and still get their effects, that's really good. That's really, really good. And Beast takes care of your hand by drawing you a card. Shaddoll Dragon gives you extra utility for popping spells and traps. And Ariel gives you the ability to deal with cards in your opponent's graveyard or even in your graveyard by banishing them, which kind of ruins their grind game for many matchups. Doing this under Branded Lost, for example, is just really crazy. They're not able to interact, and you're able to just screw up their graveyard. I've had a match where I've gotten El Shaddoll Ariel out, and I was able to fuse that away and deal with my opponent's K9 cards in the graveyard. So this is actually a very, very strong option for DracoTail variants, because not only do you get access to the Winda, you're really also being able to make a copy of Shaddoll App Cologne, which would require a second attribute of a Shaddoll card. This can also negate the effects of one face-up card on the field, right? So typically what happens is, usually what you would see is they would fuse this into this by using Ariel and a Dragon, right? So they would chain link 1 App Cologne, chain link 2 Dragon, chain link 3 Ariel, so that they get the pop, and they get the banish, whichever one you want to protect from an effect. You would just chain block it, right? So Ariel Dragon or Dragon Ariel. Or if you really wanted the Beast, you can bring the Beast in there instead of the Dragon, and just put this in the middle when you're chain blocking. That way they can't Ash. So this what this does basically is make Shaddoll Fusion a very potent one-card, multi-faceted board breaker. You'll basically pop a spell / trap, negate a card on the field face up, and interfere with the opponent's graveyard. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards you're probably interfering with for the price of 1 if they have a monster from the extra deck on the field, right? And that's for the price of 1. Essentially, 1 card in the hand does all that. So that's insane, to be honest with you, and I think that's worth a slot if you are a DracoTail player, and especially if you're a DracoTail variant that runs multiple copies of Shaddoll monsters because you just want to be able to turn 0 Winda for some reason. You know, if you're a deck that has the possibility of doing turn 0 Winda, you should probably be running Shaddoll Fusion. Book of Eclipse is another interesting option. You're seeing this a lot more. The reason why Book of Eclipse has become more popular is because of Yummy. Being able to flip face down, non-targeting all their monsters is very strong. The problem with Book of Eclipse is that in many cases, if you're not able to complete your job and get rid of all the monsters for whatever reason, then what's going to end up happening is you're giving them a lot of cards. I've had an opponent for games 2 and 3 have access to Book of Eclipse to slow down my plays, and he wasn't able to complete the job, so because I had enough interruptions to protect my life points, I ended up drawing 3 cards. At that point, you've lost the game. So Book of Eclipse is kind of a double-edged sword in that regard. This can be a godsend if played the right way, but if you play it the wrong way, you're not taking into account what your opponent possibly has outside of their monsters and like hand traps, cards in the graveyard activating, etc., then this will just lose you the game. So for that reason, plus it's a spell, so against DracoTail, they can use DracoTail Flame to stop it. So for that reason, I would put Book of Eclipse. I would probably not put Book of Eclipse in my side deck. I would probably pick, if I was going to pick, I would probably pick Droplet or Dark Ruler over Book of Eclipse, personally. Or even evenly matched. Dark Ruler No More is in a similar situation. It's kind of like evenly matched, where you're giving up basically the ability to do damage to your opponent. However, with evenly matched, while you're giving up your battle phase, if you're dealing burn damage, it doesn't matter, which could come into play for games 2 and 3. So, for example, if you're playing VS, Vanquish Soul, you probably don't want to run Dark Ruler No More. You might want to run evenly matched. So that way you can still do burn damage at the very least to win the game. But Dark Ruler No More, these are still a strong card. Like most people were calling this a great card to side against Yummy, which is totally fine. I think if you're running burn, like I said, don't run it. Use evenly matched instead for games 2 and 3. Dark Ruler No More is better than Droplet to me, personally, because you don't have to send extra cards for cost. The thing about Super Poly, the thing about Forbidden Droplet, and the thing about Book of Eclipse you gotta be worried about is either it's taking away your card economy to do something, like taking away precious resources that you'll need later on, and then Book of Eclipse is potentially giving your opponent multiple additional resources. So that's why, for me, I'm probably going to drop Dark Ruler No More from my sideboard. Then the last card is Harpy's Feather Duster. I think most decks, most decks could use a Harpy's Feather Duster. I see nothing wrong with Harpy's Feather Duster, to be honest with you. Can't speak today. Vanquish Soul, you typically want to blow up their field spell. You typically want to stop their trap that blows up all the monsters on your side of the field that aren't Vanquish Soul. And against Yummy, Field Spell, Yummy Surprise. Against DracoTail is a little bit scarier, a little bit different because they have access to DracoTail Flame to stop it. Just keep that in mind. But for the most part, I think this is a solid option to have in the side deck. If your deck has multiple options of dealing with spells and traps in a way that your opponent can't interfere with, then you can afford taking this out. For example, I'm running DracoTail, so that means I have multiple ways of dealing with spells and traps through monster effects in the graveyard. So they would have to stop that somehow, and that's not as easy to do, especially with, cards like Branded Lost in the deck and DracoTails being able to chain block. So these are the options you should probably be considering more than anything this format. For me, since I know I will be likely playing against multiple DracoTail variants, these are the cards I will be selecting. I will be selecting Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched is a trap that will allow me to remove their entire board from the game. Also, because they may be running Dragoon, if I happen to have multiple copies of this in my hand, I'm able to play the second one after they negate the first one. Also, it's a trap, which means I don't have to worry about it being negated by DracoTail Flame. The second card I'm probably going to be considering is Shaddoll Fusion. Shaddoll Fusion is a super powerful spell that they have to interrupt. It is thrustable. Since I am running a DracoTail branded variant, being able to access both Shaddoll Fusion and Evenly Matched through Triple Track Tactics Thrust gives it more advantage for me compared to Forbidden Droplet and Super Poly, or even Solemn Strike, which I just have to hope to draw into it. And because I'm running Shaddoll Fusion, I'm going to be running Nel Shaddoll Beast, Nel Shaddoll Aerial, and Nel Shaddoll Dragon. I will not be running Secretarion Dragon because the DracoTail players should be more than capable of outing this. It's not that difficult. It's very easy. I will also not be using Book of Eclipse because if my opponent is able to survive the turn, they might potentially be getting 2 or more cards. And for a DracoTail deck, getting monster cards in your hand, adding them in any way, is a death sentence for me. I don't want them having access to more cards. I noticed that the DracoTail decks at my tournament, they run Dragoon. I will not be using Solemn Strike because, number one, I can't search it. As good as it is, I can't search it. Number two, lowering my life points in games 2 and 3 when they're possibly running a Dark Magician with their Dragoon is just asking to lose the game. I'm too worried about that scenario. I won't be running Harpy's Feather Duster this time. I usually always run it. But with Shaddolls and with the DracoTail monsters in engine being able to pop spells and traps for me, it hasn't really been that much of an issue. I will not be running Super Poly. I don't really need to use it, especially since I'm not running Secretarion Dragon against the DracoTail stuff, and I haven't really been using it against K9 Vanquisol variants. I haven't really been able to do it too often. Forbidden Droplet. I like this card, but against Yummy, unfortunately, they can make a Herald and make this card unavailable to me. Since I'm a DracoTail deck, I'm running a lot of monsters, so I won't be able to use this card as easily. And Dark Ruler No More. Well, I do like this card, and I may run it in the future. The thing with me is I am running Dark Magician in my DracoTail deck, so I want to be able to have the option in niche scenarios to fuse into Dragoon and still deal burn damage to them, even though Dark Ruler No More prevents me, and Dark Ruler No More prevents me from doing damage that way. So I'm going to use cards like Evenly Matched. I also, the cool thing about this card is that similar to Evenly Matched, you can use this more than once per turn. So if this gets negated, it's totally fine. I can also thrust for this. So if I was to pick between Droplet and Dark Ruler, I would pick Dark Ruler. So if we could find room for Dark Ruler, we will in the future. And then lastly, we're going to be running Dino Wrestler Pankratops. These are the cards I'll be messing with while I'm dealing with trying to work on my extra deck or on my sideboard. It's a monster, which means I can use it for fusion material later on, and it has another pop effect. It's another destruction effect that I can use for literally anything. Puts a lot of pressure on the opponent because it doesn't require my normal summon to get this out at all. So yeah, these are the cards I will probably... if you are a DracoTail player, I think these are the cards you should be considering more than anything in your sideboard, along with the usual suspects like Droll, Lockbird, or the Charmies. If you are a DracoTail specifically, you're probably running at least 3 copies of a Charmy in the main deck or side deck. I would probably consider running 2 copies of Perulia, 2 to 3 copies of Perulia in the side deck if you have the options for it. You could run it in the main deck if you like to. I am not. And then Droll and Lockbird is another option you're probably going to be considering. You should be considering. And then depending on what your locals looks like, I would consider having your copies of Lancia for Malice. I will say though, I don't think people are really playing Malice that much anymore in my locals, so I'm actually considering dropping the Lancias. I had a match against a player who was using Malice not too long ago, and I was able to beat it with Engine. So I'm going to give that a shot this time and see how that goes. So wish me luck, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have any other concerns or ideas, thoughts. Love to hear it. Thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you soon.